everyone, and welcome to episode 81 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, and topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. To catch updates about the podcast or for other news, go to follow on your social media platform of choice. Listed in the description below. I bet you thought you were going to hear Tetsuo read the intro tonight, didn't you? With the way things were going. Well, too bad I've spoiled your fun, because I'm Obsidian, the host, the GM, and the overseer. I don't know why I'm flexing my over.
I was going to say, this is weird
stuff.
flex, but okay.
The Dark Fortune Duelist meta.
Like, I'm going to overthrow you, because when I was under Reign, everything was great. We had
Overlords are made to be overthrown. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. It's true. How can I overthrow things if there's nobody to overthrow?
If you're an underlord, you know, it doesn't work.
This is getting...
The anime wasn't called Underlord. He wasn't a little zombie guy. He's a skeleton lich dude. I've never seen that. I've just heard the OP, which is really good. All the OPs for that, but...
The OPs are really good for it, actually.
It's another isekai.
Yep. That's the Resident Wildcard Mao!
Yo.
I think Tetsuo is lost in an isekai of his own, which is fatherhood.
Yep.
Sure.
It's the new world we enter. It's completely different from the last one.
It's a very, very real and heavy isekai.
He's doing battle with Kirito right now as we speak.
Training the next.
Well, does he know that you can't beat dual wield near Gary Stew?
Near Gary Stew.
Never heard Gary Stew before?
I've heard Gary Stew, but
Kirito's the definition of it.
I've never heard you can't beat the dual wield. That is Gary Stew. Never heard that.
Yeah, it's because he has an ability that only he unlocks and can unlock and has access to, and they don't ever explain it. It just comes out of nowhere.
So
but
stupid.
I mean, it just took people that long to realize a lot of shonen are like that.
Yes.
But Sword Art Online plays it straight in an unironic way that's somehow more grating than even some of the shonen stuff. In my opinion, anyways. I could rant about Sword Art Online for like 3 hours, but I'm not going to. That's your topic. That's a beating horse. You want to talk about a beating horse?
That's gonna be your topic tonight. Is why I hate
Sword Art Online, a diatribe in 13 parts. Allow me to unleash my thesis upon you.
Have you watched the later stuff?
No. I heard that the gun one was better, but still bad, and that Elicization was god-awful again, so... I saw the first season, so. The second season was a bit too rapey for me, and then I was good after that.
Like, nah, I'm alright, I don't need to do anything.
Yeah, I was like, you know... I'm just good. Anyways, what's going on, guys? Beyond Sword Art Online?
Whole lot of nothing.
Well, I was watching this really good anime called Sword Art Online, right? And
oh no! You should be watching the better one, Log Horizon. Just the good version of Sword Art Online.
Log Horizon is actually really good.
It is really good.
Is it the mangaka or whatever got arrested for tax fraud? Yeah.
Japan, get your shit together.
All these artists, like why is it all the good ones? And
they all get like horrible
what?
They get horrible like wrist problems or tax evasion or whatever. And their stuff's just gone, or they get sick. I'm looking at you, author of D. Gray Man.
To be fair, I'm sure it's a more interesting life than I had in the last week. So, see how I swung that back around and answered the question?
Yeah, I did.
I do want.
I award you 8.3 points.
Yes.
Why not doing much?
No, it's just not. There's not been a lot going on. The only thing I've been doing is just kind of
the work
playing the second run of Sekiro, and that's mostly just to get to the
shorter path.
Yeah. No, not the short path. Although I want to do that at one point just to get the technique from it, the one mind technique, which is really cool. But I really have no reason for it because I've kind of already beaten the game. I mean, most combat abilities are meh.
Yeah. I haven't been doing anything either. Most nights I just kind of listen to an audiobook until I fall asleep. I just had no motivation to do anything.
I envy your life now.
Why?
I don't know. It sounds very peaceful to me, personally.
Yes, just
This is like sometimes I get home, I light up some incense, I meditate upon the wonders of life itself, and then I fall asleep listening to an audiobook, which is also a meditation upon the life itself.
I'm going to talk about a lot of what I've been doing later. I've been marathoning some stuff. Been binging a lot, and we're going to talk about it. But first, Mao has a more pressing issue that he needs to bring to the table. So you have the floor, sir. Speak to your piece to the court.
I don't know if it's really an issue, but
I mean, yeah, it's. I went and saw Endgame because I haven't been living under a rock.
Are you Are you telling me all the people saying don't spoil the movie for me so far have been living under a rock now?
No, it's just It's most people who go see movies have gone and seen that movie because it made what 1.2 billion in the first 3 days.
Yeah, which we knew it was going to break $1 billion.
Yeah, they actually I think have broken 3 world records thus far.
Yeah, they've basically broken every record.
It was going to be a disappointment if they didn't.
Yeah,
I don't know how they couldn't have.
Exactly.
Up so wonderfully to it.
Yeah, it's been a decade and 22 movies in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No spoilers at first. If you haven't seen it, you want to see it, here you go. Yeah. We'll tell you when we're going to talk about spoilers.
Okay, so what to talk about?
It's kind of hard to talk about without really.
A little bit. It's so
slap a spoiler tag up.
It's pretty much nearly pure fan service, really.
Yeah. Like it is.
It's very like made for the people who have been watching the previous 21 movies.
It's not really a movie for someone who hasn't seen a majority of them, and at least in my opinion. Like I had one of my buddies at work the other day ask me like, "Should I go see it? I've only seen like 3 or 4 of these." I was like, you could probably watch it, but you need to have seen Infinity War for sure.
Sure.
And you do well by having seen at least all the Avengers movies, probably. Like the mainline Avengers. All the other ones, there's going to be some references you probably won't get.
They basically reference every movie that's come before it. Some way, somehow.
It's really hard. It's really hard. I mean, like you say, like you could watch all the main lines, but I would, if nothing else, like you definitely can't go into this bare minimum. And as you said before, it's mandatory. If nothing else, if you decide to go in so blank as possible, but at least want to have some sense of things, you'd have to watch mandatorily have to watch Infinity Wars.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just like the resolution of a bunch of the characters' arcs. So
it's because it's literally this is like the closing of the first Avengers. Closing of the story on the main so the movie mainly focuses on the original Avengers for the most part, the original 6. Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Hawkeye, and Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Are like there are a lot of other characters in the movie, but those are like the main driving force.
But Nebula, Mao. Tell me about Nebula.
She's in it too. I don't know how
it's hard to talk about. Okay, there you go. There you go. Spoilers.
Slap the spoiler up. Just slap it up and just say from here on.
You know you're going to see the movie if you're going to see it. You don't need us to say anything.
You can just come back later.
Yeah, so the movie is in basically 3 parts. The fallout of Infinity Wars, the time heist, and the final battle.
Mm-hmm.
It really, it starts off fairly immediately after Infinity War with them just killing Thanos, which a lot of people I don't think saw coming like that.
I did not at all. I was pretty shocked.
I was like, wow, they actually just straight up murdered him like in the first 5 minutes.
It's like, let's go do this. Oh, and the Infinity Stones.
And Thor kills him.
Great. Yep, he went for the head. And then we get it's slowly like it's like 5, and you're like days,
Yeah.
weeks, months.
My favorite part of the movie.
It takes longer than usual, and it's like years later, and you're like, what? Apparently, they've had to live with the snapping for 5 years.
Thanos' favorite brand of drink is Snapple.
But yeah, and we get to see how the people left over have kind of been dealing with it in all the various ways. Some better than others.
Yep, Tony Stark gets his family. He has a daughter. I love those parts of the movie.
Yeah,
the good character parts.
Yeah, the movie I think has a lot more character work than Infinity War did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Infinity War is way more of a
overall
kind of a non-stop battle, fight for the universe.
It's basically here's Thanos' whole story. That's
Thanos is like the main characterization coming off of Infinity Wars. This one you get
no one else really gets any. You get a little bit of Gamora, but that and Nebula, but that's kind of it. And they're more just all playing off of Thanos' story. But anyways,
exactly. Man, and these guys I think they put in some of the best performances of these characters, which for a lot of them is probably the last. So good reason to do that. Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
So
Tony was good. Thor, I loved it. Thor just gets the best character development throughout the whole series, in my opinion.
Yeah,
every time he's
the serious depression.
Yeah, every time he's one of the main characters in a movie, he gets a cool little arc that he goes on throughout the movie. And like you said in this one, he's super depressed and he gets a giant beer gut, and he's funny.
Yeah.
I'm glad they figured out halfway through this that can't speak. Chris Hemsworth is
pretty funny
as Thor, so and they kind of played that up more than the.
I mean, he's always been funny.
Yeah.
When he in the first movie, he shatters.
Oh yeah, he is too.
Glass, and he's like, "That was good. Yeah. Bring me another, or whatever."
Or
he's always been funny.
You will not hold the son of Odin, and then they inject them with the tranquilizer, and he goes, bleh, passes out.
There's a lot of funny stuff. They
they let him do more. It seems they write more comedy for the character instead of just the straight fish out of water stuff.
I think it's also been stated that some of the first Thor movies he wasn't as big of a fan of, and he was,
he wasn't.
But
then, since Ragnarok, I believe he said, "I'll do this as long as they let me."
Yeah, I think they're gonna let him keep doing it.
Yeah, as long as they do some more stuff like Ragnarok, he'll absolutely continue to play it. So.
Oh yeah, and the movie opens on Hawkeye and his family, and he has to deal with them.
Yes, give me that sweet Hawkeye stuff.
That was the best opening.
Give me that edge. Give me that edge.
I was watching it with Lily, and Lily was like, "Oh no!" I'm like,
"Oh
yeah, you know what's gonna happen."
Yeah, I was like, "This is gonna be so hurtful." I'm ready for this train.
Yeah, and then in the meantime of the last 5 years, he's been killing people he doesn't think should deserve to have lived through the snap.
Yeah,
they don't name him in the movie, but he's been acting as Ronin, which was amusing that they finally catch up to him in Japan.
Yeah,
it was.
I think killing Yakuza guys.
Yeah.
He took out a cartel. There was just tons of bodies. Then he was going after. That's what all he's been doing. Last 5 years, he's been murdering everybody.
Right.
Who's just been doing something wrong with their life, or some of the most wicked and evil people out there. So.
And then Steve Rogers has been trying to learn to cope and helping other people cope. He kind of took up the role of the same thing that Sam had. First was introduced.
That's right.
As just helping people.
Yep.
Yeah, veterans and stuff.
Yep. And then Natasha has been kind of taking over as the lead, kind of the Nick Fury role, trying to keep what peace they can. And not her and Steve are basically Steve's putting on a better face, but they're both basically still not in a good place. The only person doing like great is the Hulk, actually.
Yeah, he's actually.
I loved his first scene
His first
in the
scene
restaurant.
was just so relaxed about everything.
He's like taking selfies with the kids.
People talking about the best spoiler, Hulk doing a dab and Thor playing Fortnite or whatever.
Yeah,
like
God. I like the Ant-Man when he came back too, and how it looked like. It just looked like an episode of Walking Dead. Basically, he was wandering around.
Yeah,
his daughter. It's 5 years later, but it was only a few minutes for him.
The catalyst to move on is that a rat saves the universe because in storage, all of Scott's stuff, including the van with the quantum tunnel, a rat crawls over all the controls, turns it back on, and he gets popped out of the quantum universe. And for him, it's been 5 hours, not 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes around and he's like trying to figure out what happens, looking for his daughter. He finds out, she's lived through these 5 years, and he was supposedly gone. And when he joins up with the Avengers, or what's left of them, he wants to put on a time heist because you can use that quantum realm to do timey-wimey stuff.
Yep.
Because the Infinity Stones still exist in the past, so we might as well go get them.
Yeah, Thanos destroyed them, essentially.
Right, he destroyed them.
Present.
And
that's kind of the reason why he is, because when it first opens up and they go after him, he's actually heavily injured. The destruction of the stones themselves wounded him. He's just out there completely alone.
He's farming giant pineapple berry things.
Yeah, he's just in a t-shirt.
But pretty much it.
Dad Thanos.
Yeah. So they all split up and basically go into the past. There's 3 separate points that they can go and get all the Infinity Stones. The Battle of New York has 3. You can go into space, or like around the time that Quill picked up the Power Stone, the start of the Guardians 1 movie. And then also get the Soul Stone, and then you have to go to Asgard in Thor 2 to get the Ether, whatever that stone is called. Reality, I think.
Yeah, the Reality Stone.
Yeah. So they made Thor 2 ends up being one of the most important points in the timeline to everyone's shock.
Because no one likes Thor 2.
Right. And so most of it goes off without a hitch, except for there's a kerfuffle with the Tesseract when they were getting it after the Battle of New York, and they accidentally drop the Tesseract, and Loki gets it and teleports away.
So we might have Loki.
One of the few unwrapped up plot threads in the entire movie. So they have to go back. So Steven or Tony go back to the 70s where they can get the Tesseract and more Pym particles, because that's how they're going through time. I forgot to mention, because Pym particles do whatever you want them to, as is true in the comics. And that was a really, really good moment, because Tony gets to have a discussion with his dad.
But Mao, you missed the better moment. Steve Rogers fighting himself.
Oh yeah, I did.
and saying that's America's ass.
Yep,
that was amazing.
He also the younger Cap also was like, I can do this all day, and he's like, yeah.
He thinks he's Loki because Loki got loose, essentially.
Right, and earlier in this scene, Loki had impersonated Captain America.
Yeah, that was some of the coolest stuff in the movie. Was like characters observing themselves in the past from like different angles and stuff.
It's great to see, like, just it's sort of like backstage moments of what we had already seen in the first Avenger movies. Yeah. And then the Hulk actually goes and gets the Time Stone, and it's actually the Elder One, because Doctor Strange is not the Sorcerer Supreme at that point in time. That was a nice.
I was actually really glad that the Master was just back. Like,
it
was just cool to see her again. Very awesome. very aware too that like what the timeline was going to be. It was like, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well, even in Doctor Strange's movie, she mentions how she looks through time, and she can only ever, her death was the one moment she couldn't see past.
yep. I think it was always interesting. It was kind of funny that like, she actually went out of her way to like continuously look through time, and so she knew like Doctor Strange was going to be like one of the best people,
Yeah,
and whatnot, and that she was like he was going to be like the best of the masters that had come out of all of them. It was kind of cool, and that so like when you got on the talk, she was actually like talking with him and kind of going over, and they give a very soft cover over to like the idea of time travel and whatnot.
yeah.
And they even I do like the fact that they even make
it's not
fun
like
of
it's
time
not
travel.
the bullshit you see in all the other movies. Like
it's not
Back to the Future and Die Hard. Oh wait, no, that's not.
That's not. That was probably one of the best scenes, but yeah, it was good. It was just I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, and then what was it? The Asgard one is mostly goes off well, except Thor still having panic attacks and whatnot, can't do it. So he went with Rocket. Rocket is able to get it, but he ends up running into his mom, and she gives him a talking to.
He gets some closure.
Yeah. Which is nice because the actress, I cannot remember her name, always said she wanted to do more with that character and never got a chance. So it was nice to see her again.
Why couldn't they have brought Sif back?
I don't know. It's so weird, but and then there's the space stuff where we get to see Quill singing that to music we can't hear. And it looks hilarious. And then
I thought the Who guy was going to show up.
Oh,
and they were going to have to deal with him. I was hoping they'd get him for a cameo, but come on, man, Star-Lord, man, come
on. They end up getting the Power Stone, but for some reason, Nebula, who went on this trip, has her own private network, but past Nebula and hers gets interfered with, and past Thanos ends up being able to view what's happening through present Nebula, and then gets all of her memories about how he ends up doing the snap, but then they kill him, and they're trying to undo his work and stuff. So, past Nebula ends up taking the space of present Nebula, and so that sets up.
Yeah, they capture present Nebula. Past Nebula impersonates her. And goes to the future, back with the Avengers later on.
And then there's the Soul Stone, where they send the two humans, Black Widow and Hawkeye, to retrieve the Soul Stone without actually. It doesn't seem like they tell them how they're going to have to, because when they get there, they run into the Red Skull, and he's like, "Yeah, one of you guys has to die."
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, "Oh, news to us," which I guess no one would have known except Nebula may have known. I don't even remember if Nebula knew.
We
just know that
they knew.
What they didn't know was that Gamora died. What they didn't know was that somebody had to sacrifice.
I guess no one would have known that necessarily.
No. Nobody would have known that. They just know that they died.
Even Gamora didn't learn that until she got there. So yeah. And then we have, I thought it was great how the two of them are fighting
to die,
who gets to sacrifice themselves.
And that was a really good scene.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. And then sad because Black Widow ends up doing it. Yep. And I've never been a Scarlett Johansson fan in general, but I really did love her in this movie, which is just kind of sad.
She did. It was probably one of their better portrayals of that character.
I think so.
That and probably Winter Soldier, my two favorite performances
those
of hers.
You're saying the Russos are good directors.
Well, yeah. Obviously.
Also, we get more Community cameos from two more Community cast members, because the Russos directed a lot of Community episodes.
I didn't know I don't know what the Community is.
Oh, it's a sitcom. It was about community college. The security guard who was where Scott showed up was a character from Community, Chang, and then the Shirley from Community was the lady in the elevator who spots Tony and Steve.
Oh yeah, Mao.
But I did recognize those people. I'm like, I feel like I've
yes.
seen them before.
Hell Hydra, by the way.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
was such a great
They
line.
set up the
So
elevator
good.
scene from
Winter
was it Winter
Soldier.
Soldier.
Yeah.
And just right when the moment you think they're gonna, start the fight, he just leans over and whispers, "Hail Hydra," and they just give him the scepter like he wants.
Yeah. That was so good.
Yeah, it's such a good.
So
like
good.
again, it references everything. There's so much fan service in this movie,
And a reference to that comic that people got mad about.
Oh yeah.
So-
Yes,
It was actually
it
funny
also-
too because we were sitting in the theater. That was like Lily. I was kind of leaned over. He's just about to say, it. I was like, "Hell, Hydra," and he says it. I'm like, "Yes, I got it right."
Nice.
I felt so good about myself. It was pointless, but
Yeah.
it was one of the better points because as you stated, like the whole controversy between the comic and
lots of meta stuff even
storyline
outside.
in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually was the Tesseract, or was it the Tesseract? No, maybe not. It's a different sentient. It's a sentient cube was the result of all of that, I think. It's weird, and comics are silly.
Comics are a little silly, yeah.
So they all end up in the future again, or back to the future, back to the present. I don't know. And yeah, they all find out Nat had to sacrifice herself, but otherwise they got all the stones. And Tony makes his own version of the Infinity Gauntlet with his Iron Man tech. And then while all of that's going down, past Nebula, goes back to the time machine and brings out Thanos and all of his army from the past.
Yep.
And they just bombard the entire place. In one of, I think, my biggest nitpick about the movie is this, like, no one dies from this. Like, you think...
I
it
thought,
really
like,
looks like Ant-Man was
Hawkeye
dead.
and Ant-Man, I thought they were gone.
But, no, everyone just kind of ends up knocked down. What is it? Rocket and War Machine are, like, under some rubble, but they end up getting away from it fine. I don't know. It just felt kind of pointless. Like, I don't know. You would have expected more from that.
I actually thought they killed Ant-Man too. That
Yeah,
when it
Because
exploded,
it,
I
like,
was
explodes
"Holy
right in
shit."
front of them.
Right.
Yes, it like the missile literally lands in the freaking yard in front of him. I'm like, this man's a dead man, and then he shows up later. I'm like, that's horse shit.
I missed the thing is that why he was looking out amongst the courtyard is because they actually completed the gauntlet and then had to argue over who gets to bring everyone back.
Yeah.
And Thor is like, please let me do it. I need to do something good. But eventually the Hulk is like, it's all the energy it puts off is gamma radiation. I'm really the only one who can do it. So he snaps and his arm still ends up crippled, but he's alive and everyone comes back. Because, Scott's overlooking all, because, like, a bunch of animals show up basically. And he's like, I think it worked. And and Hawkeye's wife calls him, and which is really impressive because that phone is apparently he kept that phone alive for 5 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's really good.
I was listening to someone because they're like, else mentioned, like, they're like, how do we find Hawkeye? It's like, have you tried calling him? But yeah, so now we get the third act, which is just like an hour-long battle of even just pure fan service.
It was great.
Yeah, it starts off with just the original three: Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Thor now finally ready, has come to terms with everything, and I know some people were unsure if he was going to, like, when
he brought Mjolnir back from the past too.
Oh yeah, that
we forgot about that.
And he summons lightning and he suits up, and some people thought like he might just have gotten like a magical transformation. He was like, buff, clean shaven, and everything Thor again and whatnot. But he actually, it's not completely everything. His body is still, large and whatnot, which is just interesting that they kept it that way.
I don't know. I don't know if there's any reason for it or not.
No, it's just, it's just something interesting that they didn't just make him instantly better. Is all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they all get pretty much stomped on by Thanos. And this is just normal Thanos without any stones. He does have a dual-bladed sword, which he spins like a helicopter. Which everyone is like, that's probably the reference to the Thanos chapter.
He stole Zidane's weapon, damn it.
They're fighting, and Thor is dual wielding Mjolnir and Stormbreaker, and eventually, like, Mjolnir gets knocked out of his hands, and Thanos has him like pinned down. And as soon as he dropped Mjolnir, I was like, "Oh, it's finally happening!"
Yeah.
And sure enough,
God, the best scene in the whole movie.
All of a sudden, Thanos gets smashed by Steve Rogers, Captain America, with Mjolnir because he is worthy, as they hinted at back in
Avengers 2,
Age of Ultron.
It was great too, because like even the character, Thor's obviously the character of Thor. He's like, I knew it. It was just, oh god, that was one of the most.
He was so happy at that point, as opposed to when he was like,
I like Thor's like, you keep the little one.
They start fighting, and dude, Steve like goes to town with it too. Like he's throwing lightning, he's using combos,
spinning it around.
Beautiful. Oh, that whoever directed that specific part, whoever was like working with them for that, give that person a freaking raise. It was beautiful. The motions, the actions, the way that they played with the shield and the hammer kind of bouncing off one another and wielding them together, phenomenal. Absolutely.
Harken back to Avengers 1, the big fight scene in that a little bit, when they do some of the team attacks, and like where Tony was shooting the beams and reflecting them off his shield and stuff.
Yep.
Just cool stuff.
That was one of the best. That was absolutely one of my that's my favorite part, in fact, of the whole movie. Was just that beautiful. It's also probably because it did the least amount of jump cuts as well for it. There's a lot. And definitely, unfortunately, ends up happening a lot where they don't really stick on to something too long. They'll generally jump to something else, and that's generally done like in movie magic.
With that many characters too, they kind of have to.
Yeah, but I mean, even for the scenes where they have just one character fighting another character, a lot.
I just mean like they would keep jumping around because the entire time they're fighting, the others are trying to get out of the collapsed building and stuff.
Yeah,
and then I guess it also.
This one was they were on that scene, and sometimes that camera would hold on there for maybe 4, 5, 6 seconds. So you would just have to have something happening for that period of time. It was great. Reminds me of like the Jackie Chan fight scenes where it's just the camera doesn't really go anywhere. It's just one shot, and they're doing everything in those shots. Great. A wonderful scene.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Thanos eventually is just what is it? Thor and Iron Man are down, and it's just Captain America, and like Thanos is just hammering and even like destroying Cap's shield, which he got back from Iron Man earlier in the movie. And eventually there's this just amazing shot of Thanos with his entire army, and just Captain America on the other side of this giant area, standing down his entire army. And then you hear some, static and on your left from Sam comes in, and then all of the different portals from the wizards and whatnot, Doctor Strange's portals show up, and everyone who was snapped away arrives and brings they get their own army. Just everyone from anyone who was ever in these movies practically shows up. Even Howard the Duck shows up.
Did he? I didn't notice him.
Yep. He shows up with the Asgardians.
No.
Valkyrie shows up. Rescue, which Pepper Potts in her Iron Man suit shows up. All the people who were snapped, all of the wizards in training with Wong and Stephen Doctor Strange. Yeah, it's just, and then we get the armies fighting. And Hawkeye found the Infinity Gauntlet.
He says the thing, Mao. He says it. He says
Which one?
Avengers Assemble.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah,
when they all finally show up, he finally gets to say
it.
Avengers Assemble.
This whole movie
yeah.
was great.
I did love it.
I want to probably go watch it again.
So Hawkeye ends up with the gauntlet, and they need to get the stones back to their own timeline, and that way Thanos won't have them. And so they're trying to get it to the quantum tunnel, and basically it ends up getting too much heat is drawn on Hawkeye, and he ends up passing it to the next generation, metaphorically, of the the Marvel MCU.
Yeah,
because he hands it first off to Black Panther, who knows his name this time. Because in was it Civil War, he's like he just tells him, "I don't care who you are." So that was a nice little touch. And this time he shows up and he's like, "Hey, Clint," and then he passes it off to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, and then during this time, Captain Marvel, who was in the start of the movie, and then tells everyone you might not see her for a while. She shows up in the big battle to destroy Thanos' main ship because it has been bombarding him. Oh yeah, because he has them bombard the entire battlefield because Scarlet Witch just wants to end him.
Yeah, she goes to town.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that was a
love
good
that
scene.
line too.
That scene was great too. It's another great
Yep.
scene. Oh.
It's like, do you know what you've done to me or whatever? And he's like, I don't know who you are. And she's like, you will.
Yeah. Because he doesn't know who she is.
No,
he has no idea. That's what
But
makes it. Oh, it's so good.
she would have probably killed him if it wasn't for him turning all of the orbital bombardment on her.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so and then
solid.
Captain Marvel is going to get it to the quantum generator thing, and Thanos ends up somehow throwing his sword faster than she can fly into the quantum machine or whatever and blows it up. And he ends up getting the gauntlet, and Iron Man ends up fighting with them, and he bats Iron Man away. He goes to snap. Oh, Iron Man somehow has taken the Infinity Stones and put them in his suit, and he's like, I am inevitable. And Iron Man's like, I am Iron Man, and snaps and wipes out his entire army. Thanos' army is gone, dusted. And then we get a series of endings.
A lot of them.
Yeah. You get Iron Man's funeral, which has a lot of people, including the kid from Iron Man 3, show up at the funeral.
Very randomly.
That was odd.
I
didn't even know who he was. I didn't
that's the odd part. Is like no one
what?
knows it was the kid from Iron Man 3, because that movie was a long time ago, and why would you just recognize him?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to see, and then Captain America volunteers to go put the stones back, and they're like, it'll take as long as he needs, but it'll only be 10 seconds for us. Hulk counts it down, and then when it happens, he doesn't show back up. And
yes, he does.
Well, he doesn't show up. They're like, he blew past his time, whatever beacon or thing. I don't know where he is. And then Sam or Bucky, notice some guy off looking at the lake. They go over, and it's old Steve Rogers.
I will say, out of all the scenes that probably threw me off the most, it's this one, but it's mostly because the CGI to make him look old just didn't look all that good.
Yeah, not as good as the CGI to make people look young yet.
Yes, the CGI.
I still like the scene though.
Yeah, it was very good.
Great.
I couldn't have imagined a better ending for Cap.
Yeah, Bucky and Sam go over. Bucky's like, or you go.
Yeah, I was wondering if he's going to give it to Sam or Bucky.
Yeah, and he's like,
Sam.
Yeah, he ends up giving the shield to Sam, and he mentions
which I prefer. I like the Winter Soldier being the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and Sam notices a ring, and he's like, "You gonna tell me about it?" And he's like, "No, I don't think I will." But yeah, Sam makes more sense because he's a better fit for the Captain America role.
For sure.
And
Absolutely.
the Winter Soldier has just been, an assassin his entire life. Like, probably doesn't want to fight.
I wish they did more with the Winter Soldier.
Well, they're getting their own show.
I know, but
A
still.
lot of them are getting their own shows. So.
Well, specifically, we're getting a Falcon and Winter Soldier show. So
which
we'll
I
get to see
will
the two of
probably
them.
watch. I'm
Yeah.
all right for that one.
But yeah, so and then after that, it cuts back to the 1940s, I believe, when he would have been in Ice, but him dancing with Peggy.
Yep.
And that's his ending.
Yep.
Yeah,
which is a little bit.
And Thor joins the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes,
Thor joins the
Gamora,
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Gamora's back, not the Gamora that the Guardians knew and traveled with, because she's dead, and you can't bring someone who sacrificed himself for the Soul Stone back. But now this Gamora has gone missing.
Yeah.
So
2014 Gamora went missing because
she doesn't know who Peter is or anything like that.
Right. So he joins, and Guardians 3 will probably be the search for her, or at least somehow.
Probably.
With Thor, which I'm all down for, by the way.
It's also good to have someone of his power level if they are actually having Adam Warlock in Thor 3 or Guardians 3.
Yep.
Because
Adam Warlock was like the original kind of probably the actual main character of the original Infinity War thing.
They ended up doing the Infinity War stuff without Adam Warlock, but
turned out pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah,
but Guardians 2 post credit, I believe, mentions Adam.
It is Adam Warlock in the thing.
But yeah, and there's no post credit scene in this one.
As was proper.
Yeah, that's a really good touch.
It was the end of the game.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it wasn't a scene, but there was a sound, and it was Iron Man.
Yeah, but it's more just a call back to the original.
Yeah.
There's nothing showing off, stuff for the next Spider-Man, which is the next movie coming out. So,
yeah.
Yeah, man.
And I think they said it picks up right where this one leaves off too.
Pretty much.
I think they said it's going to pick up literally when he's like back in school.
Yeah. Well, they show him at school, and they kind of copped out, I think, or a bit, because they ended up, I guess, all the people he really knew, or at least the main characters from his class, ended up getting dusted as well. Yeah. So I'm very curious to see if they'll just kind of gloss over the. How
or
everyone
if
gets
have a
back
bigger role
on, or if like some people literally have been gone for a day or even less, and other people have had to deal.
I kind of prefer they would gloss on and just move it, maybe like mention it in cursory glance, but then like not have it be like a big focus.
I guess it's a lot to take in.
It's a little bit hard to do because it is quite literally a universal event.
Right.
So, to them, just kind of gloss over it and never think that it had some effect on the rest of the storyline.
Oh, sure. I don't want it to be the main focus, though. Really,
I get what you're saying. It's not. You don't want to have to still keep seeing this come up again and again and again and again.
Because then it's like, are we really in a new?
Because
what do they call it? Saga or era or phase?
Technically, I understand what they do. From a story standpoint, you want to move away from it because if you don't, then you're always kind of stuck on what has already happened in an old storyline.
It was a big thing that came about from the resolution of the last.
Exactly. So.
I expect them to mention it. I just don't want them to dwell on it.
Right. Sure? Well, I feel like every movie from now on should always make a reference to the snapping.
Well, just like
I'm kidding.
Just like how people, have had their own relationships, maybe even, and just had to move on. Half the world now has to deal with the other half having moved on from them. It's just weird. It would cause the government should not be put back together immediately. How is this school being able to just go on a trip to Europe like nothing's happened if it is right away, right?
I don't think it is. I think they probably should have, as silly as it sounds, said given some. I don't think there really was a good way to do it. I think this is kind of they just kind of have to suspend your disbelief on it, because what do you do? What do you say? A year later, they finally hold Tony's funeral and whatnot. Do you say put down at the bottom of the screen as you're seeing all these different events for different people's endings a year later? What do you do?
I don't know.
There's really
I'm skip, I guess.
Yeah,
another time.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is direct. If they have said it, I didn't hear about it.
Like it could pick up and then like
it could be a year or two later. Like he could be a senior.
Who knows?
There's also the issues that like the actors who are still playing the characters that are kind of like part of the first group, so to speak, the first saga, could still technically show up for those who weren't snapped away, because I mean that's 5 years.
Yeah.
The initial snap, that's got to be pretty chaotic. There might have been a need for like somebody to go do something, and it's only settled in after the fact.
Let's see. I expect Hawkeye is probably he's going to be retired. I think. Well, no, he's getting his own show, I guess, right? But I don't think he'll be in the movies. It's. I think they said it, but I don't think they've actually confirmed it. It's weird.
Like him training his daughter and stuff, probably.
Or Kate, or if they go.
Oh yeah.
Comics where she becomes Hawkeye or whatever.
Yeah, could see that.
Nat's dead. Tony's dead.
Cap's old.
Yeah, I don't think he like. I think he's done with it anyway, even from a meta perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Thor will be around, as we said. He loves it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll keep using him.
Yep.
Hulk, I don't know. I think he's probably permanently crippled. Like is the idea, but he's still incredibly smart and whatnot. They might keep using him. I'm not sure yet.
And then the newcomers are obviously gonna keep.
Yeah,
going.
everyone else will show up. I think. What is it? I think at least in the works, maybe if not confirmed, we've got obviously
Panther
another
2,
Spider-Man, Black
Spider-Man,
Panther 2,
Captain Marvel 2, I believe.
Doctor Strange. Those are the ones for the people that are still around.
And Guardians 3.
There's actually Guardians 3 we know is in the works. Black Widow, which I assume is a prequel.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be starting filming in June or July.
Definitely been a prequel.
And then Shang-Chi is, I think, the only new character they've mentioned for a movie.
Shang-Chi,
It's kind of a martial art fighter, I think. It's not really like super powered. I think I looked at his Wikipedia page, and I think he gets the power to do shadow clone jutsus at some point. Which we've already seen they can do that with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
So they can make it look cool, so we'll see how that goes.
Wow, he's very clearly just he is very clearly like a nod of love towards
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Oof. Wow.
I'm curious to see what they'll do with him, but
hopefully better than they did with Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's getting a full movie too, not a show. So
yeah. I mean, I liked it overall.
I liked it more than Infinity War.
I liked Infinity War much better.
Oh, I watched Infinity War the night before going to see it, and I don't know. I liked all the.
I can see you liking this a lot more. This is totally.
And it has a much less dark tone than
I like the more darker tone stuff. Like I love the middle. I love the middle act, like the fall before the rise back up. I love Thanos' characterization. I was surprised that I liked him so much as a character in that movie.
Thanos was probably one of the best villains we've had in a very long time, and I'm in the same. I'm on the same boat with Obs over there. I love Infinity War, but that's generally because I like seeing the villains win sometimes. Because there's always some weight then to when the heroes eventually come back, because they're always going to come back around.
My other big like I was. Oh, go on, Ned. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, but it gives more weight, because if the heroes always win, and this is something you will see as an argument every now and then. Not that it's not great storytelling. Don't get me wrong. Those are two different things. But when the heroes always win, it's kind of like the end of the day. It's like, heroes are going to win.
I don't go see these movies to find out if they win.
But I always
they're going to win eventually.
I was going to say that's the point. It's like they're always going to win eventually, but that's not the point of seeing the movie. What I'm saying is there's no weight. There's technically in the back of your mind, whether you might agree with it or you could spend it or not. It's up to different people. But to me, at the very least, I know it's like, oh, well, the good guys are going to win. It's going to be an awesome ride.
Yeah, it's all about the fun.
It's going to be a great ride. Don't get me wrong. I'm on that. I know how this roller coaster is going to end. I'm going to come back to where I got on, but it's going to be great while I'm on it. But that's like the thing. But when Thanos wins, it's like, holy shit, he did it. He got the ending that nobody wanted except for this guy.
I just love when movies like show you the bad guy side and make you seriously consider parts of it. Like, he's still like obviously like horrible. He kills a bunch of people, but you kind of like understand a little bit where he's coming from.
No, he was insane. Like, he's the Mad Titan.
Yeah, he is the Mad Titan. I mean, like, because his solution was like, to snap away half the population when he could have just snapped in double the resources.
Yeah, and plus populations are just going to rebound.
Yeah,
Eventually, they're just going to get back. Like, there's no long-term solution with what he did.
Yeah, he's.
I'm just saying I could like empathize with him in his art.
But I get. Yeah, but that's the thing, is like that's what it's about.
I'm not saying it completely made sense.
It's not about making sense. It's about that you empathize where he comes from, because his backstory is that he saw what was going to happen and his people withered away and died because of it. And to him, that's what makes it so great.
And the sacrifice with Gamora was
so
that's when I knew I loved that movie. Him sacrificing her.
He's still a person deep down. He just truly does believe, regardless of it actually, if you really think about it, makes sense or not, that his solution will be one that fixes it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so good. Well, I know you understand that.
So I think like my biggest, like the issue that kind of knocks it down a few pegs for me anyways, was that it didn't really feel, I didn't get the catharsis of them beating him, because it was so, like, it was shocking, and I was like, oh wow, they went there, and I kind of like want to give them props for doing that, but like, that it was like,
he had already succeeded. There was no way to actually beat him.
I know, but I'm just saying from like a storytelling, like the way stuff usually like plays out, you kind of get that catharsis, like the big build up, and the resolution happens at the end. They did it at the beginning, and it was kind of like, this Thanos isn't really the same Thanos because he didn't go through the same stuff. Yeah. So like it wasn't like it was a more hollow victory. Exactly.
Like, he had a different goal though. He was going to wipe out the entire universe and start over.
Yeah. So
which really kind of threw away any like. I actually kind of wish that hadn't been the case. I really wish he'd stuck. To, like, his original.
He was a different character at that point.
He
shortcut it.
Yeah,
he didn't get the emotional
and that was my problem.
Sacrificing Gamora and everything.
And that sucks when that's the big boss instead of the other one. That's more where I'm coming from.
In a way that it's also kind of, there's gonna be never a perfect answer, but like in a way it's almost kind of nice that it wasn't that one, because that Thanos, Thanos won.
Right. It's two different characters basically.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they'll always have the knowledge of knowing that technically at the end of the day, the only reason they were able to win, not even against the actual guy who did it, was because they were able to quote unquote cheat the system.
Yeah. Right.
I do like that it was like a Pyrrhic, still like sad victory even after they beat him for 5 years. I was glad that they didn't just go like and everything started getting right. They got to stew on it. They got to sit there for 5 years and think about what they've done.
It was good, bittersweet. And
again, their victory of bringing everyone back will still cause a whole sorts of problems.
Yeah.
A 5-year gap. I mean, think about that. That's 5 years you've been away from somebody that you know or care about.
Except for you just saw them yesterday or whatever.
Yeah, you just saw them yesterday.
Like your wife who has remarried. Like, that's going to be heartbreaking for you.
Ooh, that would be so rough. It's like, I just saw you yesterday. It's like, you've been gone for 5 years. I just finally was able to let go of you. I never thought I was going to see you again. That would be so crazy. That's so insane. And even if you don't take it from that, even if you just take it the base core value, 5 years difference. 5 years that one of or the other has been without the other person. That's 5 less years you're going to get to spend with them technically. From a time standpoint, because one of you is going to die 5 years technically earlier than you would have if you hadn't had those 5 years with them. So you've lost
some
time.
people are going to
or would you? Maybe causalities.
Yes. Yeah, in the 5 years, absolutely. Somebody could be dead. They didn't snapped away. They just died. I mean, technically, some of them may have died on the first day they snapped. If there was planes in the air,
what if you would have? Yeah, what if you would have died while the snap had happened?
Right. If you didn't,
but then you're back, and now you're not going to die. My brain's hurting.
I guess there's going to be people that died because of the snap, but not from the snap, and those people don't come back. So they're like, some people are going to have to deal with other people getting their loved ones back, but they don't.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
There's a lot. There's a lot that goes on with the weight of like what's happening in the background, which I don't think they'll ever fully be able to address, because it's not going to make the great focus for the movies.
Right.
It's there for the moment that it matters.
But Yeah, but even said, like, I still like the movie a lot. It's a satisfying closing.
Yeah.
It was fan service, which was kind of what you expect the end of all this, the 10 years of stuff to be.
The fact that it has so much fan service is also going to, like, for a lot of people, it won't be as effective on reviewings and whatnot.
Yeah. So it was a fun ride, and I'm all in on Guardians. I think I'm pretty much done with the other movies, though. I don't I'll watch them, but I'm not gonna be like I gotta go see them like the night they come out kind of thing.
I've definitely got to see Spider-Man, and then we'll see from there. But I just love Spider-Man. He's one of my favorites.
Spider-Man's great,
of all time.
Yeah.
He's the world's favorite superhero.
Mm-hmm.
He's the reason we have the Power Rangers. Yeah, it's
a good movie. Hard to say.
Yeah. Anything else y'all want to say about it?
Oh, that's a hard one, man.
Man, it's just so much good stuff in it. Yeah, I think we mentioned everything we like as we went on.
Let's snap along to something else.
And half our podcast is gone.
Yeah,
we only have one more topic.
Perfectly balanced.
I snapped away Tets and Meta's topics.
No!
Vanished to the nether.
Well,